A HUD study once found that 49% of homeless adults had spent 5 or more days in a city or county jail, and 18% in federal or state prisons.
When you are making a reentry back into the community after living in an abnormal society where you have cells and cell partners, one of the things that we would like to do is try to restore dignity to that person.
More than 10% of those going in and out of jails are homeless in the months leading to their incarceration.
Great appeal of this particular project is we spent a number of years working with Stanley Jones on ways that the laws that exist, first analyzing how the laws that exist create barriers, and then recommending what might be ways of changing or tweaking the laws so that they presented less of a barrier. That's very important work, but the members of Stanley Jones need housing now.
Because of the Corey law and its application, discriminatory application, that housing seems to be one of the main issues that keep a person from, in fact, making that smooth transition back into the community. Because of the way that Corey is structured, that getting housing is not going to be an easy thing.
A National Institute of Justice study found that 68% of the 300,000 inmates released in 1994 were rearrested within 3 years. This rate has not changed.
Is going to be something that the members of Stanley Jones do themselves, they want to do themselves, and will result in some really tangible improvements for numbers of them that pass through this transitional housing.
Well, Stanley Jones is trying to do a lot more than housing with their project. They're trying to create a safe housing environment for people, but they're also trying to provide employment, counseling. People are trying to overcome mental illness in some cases, transition from an extraordinarily structured, restrictive, exclusively male environment to a less structured and unsupportive environment.
At times, if a person doesn't have housing and has to go to a transitional setting, that might be even worse than it was when they were incarcerated. That kind of frustrates that person and puts them on the fast track to going back into the prison system.
The formerly incarcerated experience a 23% increase in recidivism when they're left to live in shelters upon release. They are 7 times more likely to reoffend within the first month than those in stable housing.
People have a tendency to want to help folks when they see that folks are trying to help themselves. Our job is to educate and to empower the ex-offender that they don't necessarily have to fall back into the old mode of thinking, that we are change agents and that we deserve the opportunity to rebuild our lives. And that comes with housing, educational opportunities, and being able to create our own jobs and develop job skills.
Inmates who receive treatment for drug and alcohol abuse are 73% less likely to be rearrested after release. They are also 44% less likely to reuse drugs in the first 6 months of release.
5 to 20% of Massachusetts inmates suffer from serious mental disorders. Without treatment and a stable environment, these people are more likely to reoffend and to be involved in violent crimes.
Folks talk about deserving this. Do you prioritize housing for a mom and kids who are at risk of eviction? Do you prioritize housing for somebody who has committed a crime in the past? It can be a tough sell in terms of public resources. They've got a real special vision, and I think it's new, and this is the type of thing that can only work if an organization has support. And Stanley Jones is getting support from a variety of different places in the community, but in terms of the legal issues, Northeastern's law offices have really been a key source of support.
Aligning ourselves with Northeastern School of Law, this gives us the boost and the added strength in our argument that we deserve the opportunity to rebuild our lives, and that includes housing.